Welcome to the channel, everyone. Let's jump straight into the latest developments on the front lines. A lot has happened in the last several hours, and we're seeing significant progress, especially in the area of Vuhledar, where Russian forces are making important advances. We also have news from the international arms market, with India reportedly offering up to 2,500 modernized tanks, a major development that could shift the balance of power. First, let's focus on the battlefield. The big story right now is the Russian advance around Vuhledar, where there's growing talk of a potential encirclement of Ukrainian forces. This situation is particularly critical, as Russian troops are making fast and coordinated movements to surround the city. If successful, this would cut off crucial supply lines and reinforcements for the Ukrainian defenders, putting them in an increasingly precarious position. Over the past 6 or 7 hours, Russian forces have advanced significantly, pushing into Ukrainian-held territory. The most alarming reports are coming from Deep State, which is tracking the movements of Russian troops in the first streets of Vuhledar itself. According to their sources, while the Russians have not fully secured the city yet, they are engaged in street fighting and have taken control of several key areas. This is a major development because just a few months ago, any Russian presence in Vuhledar seemed unlikely. Today, however, things have changed dramatically. Russian forces are now pushing from both the south and east, aiming to create a full encirclement around the Ukrainian forces in the area. This tactic, if successful, could result in the complete isolation of a significant Ukrainian contingent, forcing them either to surrender or be destroyed. Russian forces have also secured key portions of the M0532 highway, which is crucial for controlling movements into and out of the city. The situation for Ukraine in this area is becoming more desperate by the hour, with the likelihood of a breakthrough by Russian forces seeming inevitable. But it's not just about Vuhledar. The entire region has become a focal point of Russian strategy. Additional reports suggest that Russian artillery and airstrikes have been pounding Ukrainian positions in nearby villages, preventing Ukraine from sending reinforcements to the city. These bombardments are intended to block any attempts by Ukrainian forces to counter the Russian advance or reinforce their defenses. It's a tactical move that could further hasten the fall of Vuhledar if the Ukrainians are unable to muster the strength to push back. From a larger strategic perspective, this assault is critical for Russia. Capturing Vuhledar would not only represent a major symbolic victory, but would also open up additional strategic opportunities. The fall of Vuhledar could pave the way for future advances towards cities like Pavlivka, securing a greater foothold for Russian forces in the region. In addition to the situation in Vuhledar, we are also seeing important developments to the north. Russian forces have captured several elevated positions near Selidov, an area known for its strategic importance due to its high ground and proximity to major roads. Securing these heights gives the Russians an important advantage, as they now have control over fire in the region. Any Ukrainian movements in the area will be vulnerable to artillery and direct fire from Russian forces stationed on these heights. This could help facilitate future Russian advances northward and cut off further Ukrainian retreat paths. Moreover, Russian forces have secured key sectors along the highway leading towards Selidov, enhancing their logistical capabilities. The focus on capturing and securing roads has been a consistent theme throughout the Russian advance. As I've mentioned in previous videos, controlling key transportation routes, especially paved roads, is critical for the success of military operations. By controlling these roads, Russia ensures that its logistical lines remain intact, allowing for the continuous flow of supplies, reinforcements, and heavy equipment. Speaking of heavy equipment, let's turn to the international arms market. One of the most significant developments outside of Ukraine right now is the news that India is planning to modernize and sell off a large portion of its T-72 tank fleet. We're talking about 2,500 tanks here, a massive number that could potentially have a serious impact on the balance of forces in several conflicts around the world. According to official reports, India intends to modernize these T-72 tanks, which were produced domestically under license. After modernization, they will be offered for sale to a range of buyers, including countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. However, in the current geopolitical climate, it's highly likely that many of these tanks could end up in the hands of the Russian military. While no direct sales have been confirmed yet, there are a number of ways these tanks could make their way to Russia. One possibility is that the tanks could be sold to intermediary countries like Iran, North Korea, or some African nations, which could then resell or transfer them to Russia. Another potential scenario involves the United States and its allies attempting to purchase these tanks to supply Ukraine. In this case, we could see a bidding war for the tanks, with both sides vying for this critical equipment. Given the ongoing war and the demand for armored vehicles, it's safe to say that these 2,500 tanks will be in high demand. Even though the modernization process will take some time, the potential impact of this deal on the battlefield could be enormous. For Russia, acquiring modernized T-72s would be a welcome boost to its armored forces, which have taken significant losses throughout the conflict in Ukraine. The addition of thousands of modernized tanks would provide Russia with the means to sustain its armored divisions for a prolonged period of time. And since Russia is preparing for a long-term conflict, having a steady supply of tanks is crucial for maintaining pressure on the Ukrainian front. It's also important to consider the broader geopolitical implications of this deal. India has a long-standing relationship with Russia, and while it maintains ties with Western nations, its strategic interests are often aligned more closely with Moscow. Given the ongoing tensions between India and China, India has a vested interest in keeping Russia as a close ally. By selling modernized tanks to Russia, India could further solidify its relationship with Moscow, even as it navigates its complex relationship with China. In the world of geopolitics, these sorts of arms deals are not just about money. They're about strategic alliances and positioning on the global stage. In the end, we'll have to wait and see how this situation unfolds. But it's clear that India's tank modernization program could have significant consequences for the war in Ukraine. Whether through direct sales or indirect transfers, it seems likely that a portion of these tanks will eventually make their way to Russia, providing them with much-needed hardware. So to recap, on the battlefield, Russia is advancing on multiple fronts, particularly around Vuhledar, where Ukrainian forces are at risk of being encircled. Strategic positions near Selidov are being secured, paving the way for future Russian operations. And on the international stage, India's potential sale of modernized T-72 tanks could significantly impact the course of the war. That's all for today, folks. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll keep following these developments closely as they unfold. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.